Okay, let's talk about an empire. An empire so huge and so powerful that it shaped 3 continents for more than half a millennium. We're diving into the Ottoman Empire, a story of incredible art, fearsome warriors, and a legacy that, trust me, is still making waves today.
600 plus years. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's an existence that stretches from the Middle Ages right through the Renaissance and all the way into the modern era of cars and telephones. For 6 centuries, the Ottomans weren't just some regional kingdom. They were a legit global superpower.
And yeah, that quote is no exaggeration. This was absolutely one of the mightiest and longest-lasting dynasties in world history. It was an Islamic-run powerhouse, with a reach that stretched from the heat of the Arabian desert all the way to the gates of Vienna in Europe. And at the top of it all, a single, all-powerful ruler, the Sultan. So the big questions for us are pretty clear. How did this happen? How does a small tribe become a world-spanning empire? What exactly made its golden age so golden? And of course, what could possibly bring a power like this to its knees? All right, let's get into it.
You know how every superhero has an origin story? Well, empires do too, and the Ottoman story starts small, with a pretty scrappy tribe of Turkish warriors in a place called Anatolia. But with some seriously smart leadership and a whole lot of ambition, they were about to build something that would shake the entire world.
So it all kicks off around 1299 with a leader named Osman I. But the real game-changing moment, the event that put them on the map in a huge way, was 1453. That's when Sultan Mehmed II, who would go down in history as the Conqueror, did what everyone thought was impossible. He took the city of Constantinople, the fortress heart of the Christian Byzantine Empire.
And look, this was way more than just capturing a city. This was a seismic event. The Byzantine Empire, which had lasted 1,000 years, was just over. Mehmed gives the city a new name, Istanbul, and turns it into this vibrant, buzzing, multicultural capital for his rapidly growing Islamic empire.
Okay, so with Istanbul as the jewel in its crown, the Ottoman Empire charges into its golden age. We're talking about a period of absolutely explosive growth, rock-solid stability, and a flourishing of arts and culture that would really define their entire legacy. And if you want to pinpoint the absolute peak of that golden age, you gotta look at the reign of one man, Suleiman the Magnificent. And let me tell you, he definitely earned that name. His time on the throne from 1520 to 1566 was the high watermark for Ottoman power, wealth, and influence.
Under Suleiman, the empire's reach was just staggering. I mean, they controlled the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, the breadbasket of Egypt, and they were pushing deep into the heart of Europe. This was a true world empire, ruling over a massively diverse population of Muslims, Christians, and Jews. But it's so important to get this. They weren't just about conquest. The empire was a hotbed of culture and brilliant innovation. Art, science, architecture, it was all happening. And get this, in the field of medicine, Ottoman doctors developed surgical tools like forceps and scalpels that were so perfectly designed they're basically still being used today. How wild is that? So, you have to ask yourself, how do you keep an empire this huge and this diverse from flying apart? Well, the answer is pretty complicated. It was this fascinating and kind of contradictory mix of some really tolerant ideas and some absolutely ruthless policies. Let's start at the very top. Power was kept in the family through a practice that was as effective as it was brutal: fratricide. Yep, that means killing your brothers. To stop the bloody civil wars over succession that ripped other kingdoms apart, a new sultan would often just eliminate his rivals. It's grim, for sure, but it worked. And here's where you see the central paradox of the empire. On the one hand, you had the millet system, which was surprisingly tolerant. It let religious minorities, like Christians and Jews, pretty much govern themselves. But on the other hand, you had the devshirme system. This was a brutal human tax, where Christian families in conquered lands had to give up their sons to the state to be converted to Islam and serve as slaves. But here's the craziest part of that system. Those enslaved boys, they were trained to become the Janissaries, the Sultan's personal, elite, fanatically loyal fighting force. So get this, they were technically slaves, but they became one of the most powerful and feared groups in the entire empire. Talk about a contradiction. But as they say, all good things must come to an end, even for the mightiest empires. For the Ottomans, the 1600s marked the beginning of a long, slow slide downhill, as the foundations of their power started to crack. So what happened? Well,
The world was changing, and Europe was changing fast. You had the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, all this new science, new military tech, and new sea routes for trade that completely bypassed the Ottomans. The balance of power was slowly but surely tipping away from them.
And you can literally see this decline on a timeline of losses. The failure to take Vienna in 1683 was a massive blow. Then, over the next couple of centuries, this powerful new idea of nationalism starts to catch on. People wanted their own countries. Greece, Serbia, Bulgaria. One by one, they fought for and won their independence, chipping away at the empire.
By the early 20th century, the once feared empire was known by a pretty sad nickname, the Sick Man of Europe, and its final chapter would be an absolute nightmare of world war and genocide. In what was basically a desperate, last-ditch gamble to reclaim some power, the Ottoman leadership allied with Germany and the Central Powers in World War I. It turned out to be a fatal mistake. 4 years of brutal war later, the empire was on the losing side, completely defeated and broken. And under the chaos and cover of that war, the empire's leaders did something truly horrific. In 1915, they put a plan into motion for the systematic murder and deportation of their Armenian population. It was an atrocity that today is widely recognized as the Armenian Genocide.
1.5 million. That's the estimated number of Armenian men, women, and children who died. It's a number that's hard to even comprehend. It was a horrifying chapter in the empire's collapse, and its legacy is still a source of incredible pain and political debate to this day.
The defeat in the war was the final nail in the coffin. The winning side, the Allies, simply dismantled the empire. In 1922, after 600 years, the Sultanate was officially abolished. It was over, and out of the ashes, a new, modern nation was born, the Republic of Turkey, founded in 1923 by a revolutionary leader named Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. So, after all that, what are we left with? What is the legacy of an empire that lasted 6 centuries? Well, just like the empire itself, it's a story of deep, deep contradictions that we still feel today. You just can't give a simple thumbs up or thumbs down to the Ottoman Empire. We remember the breathtaking mosques, the incredible art, the periods of religious tolerance, and the unstoppable armies. But at the same time, we have to remember the systems of oppression and the absolute tragedy of its final years. It's a legacy of both true brilliance and shocking brutality. And here's why this matters. This isn't just ancient history. The modern borders of the Middle East, so many of the ethnic tensions in the Balkans, the culture of Southern Europe, so much of that was forged inside this empire. So the real question for us is, where do we still see the echoes of the Ottomans shaping our world right now today?
Hey there. Subscribe to my channel. And also press this bell icon.